In the massive, high-stakes chess game of World War II, there were some brilliant moves, some really bold ones. And then there was this one, which was just utterly unbelievable. We're going to get into Operation Mincemeat, which is hands down one of the most successful and frankly bizarre deception plans ever pulled off.
I mean, seriously, think about that question. By 1943, this was the question for Allied commanders. They've got this massive invasion of Europe on the horizon, so how on earth do you misdirect the entire German war machine to save thousands and thousands of lives?
Well, the answer they came up with sounds like something straight out of a spy novel. It literally relied on a dead body, a secret submarine mission, and a whole web of lies that was so perfectly crafted it was designed to be discovered.
So to really get why they had to come up with such a wild, out-there plan, we have to look at the map back in 1943. The Allies were staring down a huge and very predictable problem.
Okay, so picture this. The Allies have just secured North Africa. Everyone's looking at what's next. And a quick glance at the map makes it painfully obvious. Sicily. It was the perfect stepping stone into Europe, what Churchill called its soft underbelly. The problem? It was so obvious that everyone knew it was coming.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Winston Churchill himself put it pretty bluntly. The Germans knew it, the Allies knew it, and because of that, the Germans were turning Sicily into a fortress. A direct invasion was going to be a total bloodbath.
So here's the real challenge. The goal wasn't to hide the invasion, that was impossible. The goal was to make the Germans look the other way. They had to somehow convince them that the real targets were all the way over in Greece and Sardinia, and that any talk about Sicily was just a big bluff.
So how do you plant an idea like that, right inside the minds of the German High Command? Well, the answer starts with a strange memo from years before, and a couple of really brilliant intelligence officers.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The basic idea had been floating around since 1939 in this thing called the Trout Memo. And get this, it was co-written by a young Ian Fleming, the guy who would go on to create James Bond. Then, in 1942, a real plane crash proved that neutral Spain was secretly passing any documents they found straight to German intelligence. That was the missing piece. They now knew it could work, and that old Trout Memo idea suddenly got a green light.
And these are the two men who had to turn this crazy idea into a real operation: Charles Cholmondeley and Ewan Montague. It was their job to literally invent a man from scratch, give him a life story, and then make sure his death would help change the course of the entire war. No pressure, right?
Okay, this is where the plan goes from just being clever to being absolute genius. Because creating the man who never was meant obsessing over details on a level that is just mind-blowing.
First things first, they needed a body. They found the body of Glyndwr Michael, a homeless man who had tragically died. Then they gave him a whole new identity: Captain Acting as Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. It was the perfect choice, a rank just important enough that he'd be trusted with secret papers, but not so famous that anyone would actually know his face.
But to really sell the lie, Major Martin needed a life. And this is where their work was brilliant. They filled his pockets with what spies call pocket litter. We're talking a photo of his fiancée, Pam, love letters from her, a receipt for an engagement ring, even ticket stubs from a show. They even threw in an angry letter from his bank about an overdraft. Every single item was designed to paint a picture of a real, living, maybe slightly careless person.
But of course, the real prize, the whole point of the mission, was chained to his wrist. Inside that briefcase were letters, carefully forged to look like casual personal notes between top Allied generals. And buried inside all that friendly chatter were the fake plans, the bait that clearly pointed to an invasion of Greece and Sardinia, while dismissing Sicily as a mere distraction.
So, they had their man, they had his story, and they had the documents. Now came what was probably the most dangerous part of the whole thing: delivering the secret package right under the enemy's nose.
The logistics here were just insane. The body was dressed, sealed in a special canister with dry ice to keep it preserved, and then driven all night from London to Scotland. From there, the submarine HMS Seraph took it on a 10-day trip to the coast of Huelva in Spain, a spot chosen specifically because a very active and very pro-German agent operated there. Then, at dawn on April 30th, they gently slipped their cargo into the sea.
And to give you a sense of just how secret this whole thing was, the submarine crew, they had no idea what they were carrying. They were told to canister with some kind of top-secret weather device. Only the officers knew the truth about their silent
and very strange, passenger. So the body was in the water. The trap was officially set. All Montagu and Cholmondeley could do now was just wait and hope like hell that the Germans would take the bait.
And boy did they. The body was found by a fisherman, and just as planned, the documents quickly made their way into German hands. And not long after, Allied codebreakers intercepted a German message that confirmed everything. The confirmation went straight to Churchill himself, and it was perfect. Mincemeat swallowed rod, line, and sinker. The deception had worked. It had actually worked.
Now this is what's so incredible. You can see the direct results right here. The Germans didn't just believe the lie, they acted on it, big time. No new troops were sent to Sicily. Instead, they doubled their forces in Sardinia, moved 7 divisions to Greece, and even redeployed an entire elite panzer division all the way from France. They were literally moving their biggest chess pieces to the wrong side of the board.
So the success of Operation Mincemeat wasn't just some clever spy story. It had a real, measurable, and life-saving impact on the actual invasion of Sicily when it finally happened. Military planners had been bracing themselves for a brutal 90-day slugfest to take Sicily. But as you can see, because so many German forces had been moved, the Allies took the entire island in just 38 days. That's less than half the time they expected.
And this is the number that really matters. In that bloody first week of the invasion, Allied casualties were only 1/7 of what they had grimly predicted. That lie, that ghost created by Montagu and Cholmondeley, directly translated into thousands of lives saved.
Years after the war, when the story could finally be told, the grave of Major Martin in Spain was updated. It was changed to honor the man whose body was at the center of it all, Glyndwr Michael, a man who, in death, played an absolutely crucial role in winning the war. And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? Operation Mincemeat was a huge gamble, a lie that could have failed spectacularly. But they weighed that risk against the absolute certainty of the truth, a predictable invasion that was guaranteed to cost thousands more lives. It just makes you think about the strange, impossible choices that have to be made in wartime.